Coming up on Broncos weekend, Denver travels to Chicago, where both the Broncos and Bears are looking for their first check in the win column.
We need a win, and Chicago does too, but a win would mean a lot for us right now.
Russell Wilson is quietly putting together a strong start to the season. Now the offense is looking for a complete game.
We got to get on the winning side of the column, and that's what we're going to try to do this weekend.
And the defense is looking to bounce back as it gets set to face Justin Fields and company.
Your backs are against the wall. You're fighting, you're scratching, you're crawling.
It's all coming up next. Broncos weekend starts right now. Hello, and thank you for joining us here for Broncos Weekend. I am Phil Milani, as always, joined by the Hall of Famer, Steve Atwater, and Super Bowl 50 champ, Ryan Harris. We're getting you ready for kickoff against the Bears coming up this Sunday, and our main story this week is both of these teams in a very similar spot, looking for their first win of the season. And Steve, for the Broncos, they say it starts in practice.
It 100% starts in practice. I always say how you practice is how you play, and if you don't practice the way that you intend on playing, it's going to be very difficult to turn on the switch and make that change on game day. When we practiced, we were full speed right up until impact, and then we pulled off. But we got we got into the habit of playing fast and running all the way to the ball. Everybody flying to the ball, and we got to get that same thing with this defense. Everybody has to know that when the ball is out of the quarterback's hand or if it's handed off, we all got to get there. 11 guys got to get there to the ball.
And part of it, too, is realizing the coaches are giving you information before the game. It's easy in practice to think, oh, okay, we're going through another install. We've ran that play before. But this week there's a difference, a slight little nuance. And what I've been seeing is just those nuances are not being picked up. Guys on offense and defense out of position sometimes. So it's not just about what you're doing on the practice field, but listen in those meetings to the keys to victory and use them in a game.
What do you think the mentality of this team is, Ryan? Like, where are they right now? They went through a long, hard training camp, start the season 0-3. Nobody was expecting that. What would a win do for this team, for example?
Well, first thing that a win does, it lets you look at your teammates. I mean, one of the things when you're losing like this, you're not really talking to each other between meetings. You're not really laughing as much. You get a win. Oh, hey, what's up, man? Steve, great job. You get to celebrate your teammate. You get to raise your eyes again. But the other thing for these Broncos, they have nothing to lose at this point, right? So to me, if I'm on that team, I'm telling the guys, play fast. If you're going to make a mistake, make it 100 miles per hour. We have nothing to lose. Go take what we want, and what we want is one victory.
Now, I know there are several leaders in that locker room, and the leaders, this is the time when they really have to step up and make sure that the overwhelming message in the locker room is we're still together, we're still going to fight, we're going to see this thing to the end. I don't care what the score is, I'm going to play my tail off. And one thing, too, is in order to lead guys, you have to be playing well yourself.
Yes. Because
if you're not playing well, football player, you know how it is, Ryan. They'll call you out. Hey, man, you're not doing anything, so why should we listen to you? So you got to play well first, take care of your own work first, and then help motivate the other guys to have that positive attitude. Now, I think in every locker room, there are going to be a couple of negative Nellies who try to bring the vibe down, but you got to try to get rid of those guys or hush their voices and make sure that the leader's voice, who have that positive attitude that, hey, we're going to continue to work regardless of the situation, ring through.
Yeah, one of those leaders on this team is Russell Wilson, and he knows, like Steve mentioned here, staying positive is the key.
There's a lot of great energy, in our locker room, and just got a lot of guys that believe that we're gonna dig our way out of the hole and just continue to focus on being the best version of us every day. And that's really what matters. That's what we got to get to do. Any loss is tough, but you got to be professional about it. You got to be able to move on. You got to be able to focus on what the task is at hand, and that's already gone. We got to be able to move on and be right in the moment of right now.
And what we're watching for this week is this defense looking to bounce back. Steve, I know as a Hall of Fame safety watching last week, you must have been getting animated, throwing things at your TV.
Yeah, man, it was just kind of frustrating to watch. And, I've been in a similar situation, not 70 points, but we got 55 put on us in the Super Bowl. So I know that the feeling of the players, and I really felt bad for the guys. But, again, you just got to bounce back from it. It all starts with the guys up front, too. defensive linemen, many times their responsibility is not only to get to the quarterback, but also, hey, keep the offensive linemen off the linebackers. Yep. And if you don't have defensive linemen that can do that, then you got to have some linebackers who have the physical abilities to run through the offensive tackles and make plays regardless of what the offensive linemen are doing. And then once it gets to the secondary, hey, you got to be willing to fly to the ball and make tackles regardless of the situation. And sometimes I haven't seen that, and I want to see that pick up. And I think they've been working on that some in practice. So hopefully we'll see a different production and energy level from this defense this week.
I'm looking for that energy level number one, and that starts with making plays that are on the field. And one thing that young players realize in real time is that each and every week the NFL gets better, right? I mean, the Miami Dolphins were better than they were week one when they faced the Denver Broncos, and you have to elevate your play each and every game. You have to find something during the week to get better at. Now, the good news for this defense, I don't care who you are, what's your job title or position group, everyone was humbled last week. So everyone's coming with a new focus and a new intensity, and I look for that to show up on the field.
Ryan, sometimes in a case like that where you lose by 50, it's good to get back out there. I mean, how eager is this Broncos team to just get back out to Chicago?
You have no idea. Please put the cleats on. Let me get to my pregame warm-up. You know, you just want to get back to the field, and you want to feel that you know what it takes to win. You want to feel confident in that game plan. You want to get out there and get as far away from that performance last week as humanly possible in a short amount of time.
Yeah, and like I shared a little bit earlier, in Super Bowl 23, we played against the San Francisco 49ers. We lost 55-10. That was a terrible beating, and I had to wait all offseason to play again. If I could have played a game that following week, I would have been so much happier. And man, and they didn't have mental health counselors back then. So
you didn't have anybody to talk to.
I didn't have nobody to talk to about it.
I know this Broncos team wants to wash this taste out of their mouth. Let's hear from both of the starting safeties here from a defense that still has a lot of pride.
You know, obviously, go through and make some changes, you know, make some corrections. I feel like a lot of stuff we did wrong Sunday kind of caused it and did it to ourselves. But at the end of the day, it's all about, making corrections, moving forward, and, looking forward to the next opportunity.
A win just kind of cures all things. And so, Miami is Miami at this point. Sunday's a fresh slate, a new game, a new opponent. And, Chicago's got a good team, and we got to pack our defense and go down there and find a way to win a game.
One of the bright spots for the Broncos through 3 weeks has been rookie wideout Marvin Mims Jr., who leads the team in receiving yards. Denver 7's Troy Rank has more with our matchup of the game.
The Broncos have a winning problem. The Broncos have a problem playing defense. What could help both of those? A more explosive offense. Now listen, the offense is not why they lost to the Dolphins. We all understand that. But they could receive a boost. And you know where that starts and stops? Marvin Mims Jr. He's only a rookie. He's had more big plays than Shakespeare. Just look at the stats. They are mind-boggling. He's had a 60-yard catch, a 53-yard catch, multiple 30-yard catches, and oh yeah, a 99-yard kickoff return, a 45-yard punt return. This is a guy that looks like he's operating on fiber optics in a dial-up world. Get him the ball more. And I asked Sean Payton about this. I said, Coach, is there going to be an expanded role for Marvin Mims? He said, yes, he's part of the game plan, but that's not enough. I think they need to start making the game plan fit to Mims instead of the other way around. He's earned more snaps, and here's why I say that. You look back to that Miami game, multiple times Russell Wilson threw to Mims in contested coverage. That shows trust. And what did Mims do? He goes up there and fights and makes a play. That is something we haven't seen enough of around here for the last 6-7 years. So I understand he's a rookie and part of it is his fit in the running game, but he has earned the right for more snaps. He's earned the right for more targets. So when you play a Bears defense that has basically been the worst in football for the last year and a half, they will give up passing yards. They're giving up this year 286 through the air. That means there are going to be openings for Marvin Mims. So get that play action going. Get that ball in the air to Marvin Mims. One play from him, 2 plays from him, that could be the difference. So on Monday morning, if we're talking more about Marvin Mims, that means we're talking about a Broncos win.
Thank you very much, Troy, back here at the desk. Guys, Russell Wilson says Marvin Mims Jr., there is no ceiling for this guy. How good can he be?
Well, I think he can be an amazing wide receiver, and he's shown that in really every aspect of his game. He's shown it in the return game. He's shown it in the big catches and, the catches where they're contested and people are around him. He's caught the balls. He's been consistent. He's been giving great effort. He's a guy who doesn't look like he's moving as fast as he's moving, but he's steadily pulling away from defenders, and that's the thing that you love to see. And I can see more and more big plays in his future.
To me, I think he's an Antonio Brown / A.J. Brown type of a player. I mean, Marvin Mims hasn't been in the weight room for 2 years yet in the NFL. He hasn't had the full steak dinners of the offense for 2 years. He's going to put some muscle on, but to what Steve's saying, the ability and the want to of making what they call combat catches in the NFL, and on all types of plays, he's in the slot, he's down the seam, he's crossing the middle. That kind of experience and variety is going to make him hard to defend, and he's only going to get stronger and faster with the NFL training tables and weight rooms. So the ceiling is so high for this young man. He could be a top 5 receiver in the NFL in a short amount of time.
Right, that's why I tell myself, steak dinner is going to make me a better athlete. This is good for me.
You can do it, Phil. I don't know, Phil. Maybe you can do it late, Phil. You better hurry up.
Filet, dog. Get filet now, Phil. You're dad.
Well, it's time for us to take our first break. When we come back, we'll go inside the Broncos locker room and hear from their leading tackler. Plus, we'll tell you why this matchup on Sunday with the Bears will likely come right down to the wire. That's next on Broncos Weekend.
Well, I think Broncos fans are awfully excited to see how Brock Osweiler does in his first start.
4-man rush. Osweiler throws to the end zone. Touchdown, Denver! He threw a strike to Cody Latimer. They tried to run it. He didn't get in. T.J. Ward with the tackle. And the Broncos are going to get out of Chicago with a hard-fought victory.
Our memorable matchup, a 2015 victory over the Bears on a chilly day in Chicago. I remember that one. It was Brock Osweiler's first ever start in place of an injured Peyton Manning. And that leads us to our key stat. The last 4 matchups between the Broncos and Bears have been decided by 3 points or fewer. And here's an extra nugget. The game-winning or tying score has come in the final 30 seconds in 3 of the 4 previous games, so expecting a close one on Sunday. We're back here in studio. I am Phil Milani alongside Steve Atwater and Ryan Harris. Ryan, you started in that game. You remember it well?
I remember it so well. They changed the meetings for the rest of the year, Steve. We went to 15-minute offensive and defensive meetings because we came in a huge snowstorm. Peyton was getting healthy. Brock stands up in front of the team and says, if you're worried about me, I promise you I'm ready. I'm ready to lead us to victory. We went and won. He would go on to go 5-2, pivotal for us to get that home field advantage in the playoffs. And again, as I mentioned, Steve, the rest of the year, we have 15-minute offense and defense meetings, 15-minute special teams meetings, 5-minute team meeting. We were out of there.
How?
So Gary Kubiak made the change after, and we were rolling from there.
How?
I tell you,
a 15-minute offense.
Well, I went up to Gary the next morning. I said, hey, Gary, Coach, we won with those 15-minute meetings, And he goes, you think we should change it the rest of the year? And I was like, well, if you want to ruin a winning tradition, go ahead. So for the rest of the year, we had the shortest meetings, and we played the best football.
Unreal.
A lot of veterans on that team, so you guys, you could do that.
You could,
Point.
I just remember how cold it was that day. Yeah, they were like scraping ice off the seats and stuff before the game. So, yeah, I remember that well. Guys, let's hear some bold predictions for this week.
I would say on the offensive side, no turnovers. We had a couple of those last week that hurt us pretty badly. And then defensively, only thing I want to see those guys do is go out there and 11 guys play with heart every single play.
To me, I think the offense gets those big explosive plays. I'm counting 2 touchdowns from play-action passes. Anytime you're going against a defense that has been struggling all year long, they easily take their first read and they're open to that downfield pass. Sean Payton likes that. So I got 2 offensive touchdowns on play-action passes. And then defensively, I think you hold them under 10 points. I think this defense was embarrassed. And I think that, and I've experienced that. I'm sure, Steve, you had an embarrassing play. It only takes one time to be embarrassed to make the decision it will never happen again. I think this defense comes out firing.
10 points. Wow. Okay. I like that. Is bold. That's what we call it. Bold.
I like it.
I like it. Well, it's time for our interview of the week. Let's go inside the Broncos locker room and hear from team reporter Sydney Jones inside the Broncos locker room.
Thanks, Phil. We're here inside the locker room with inside linebacker Alex Singleton. Alex, as you guys turn the page here, what's the focus? What's the mindset heading into Chicago this weekend?
We're playing the Bears, and forget what's happened. We got to win a football game, and there's no better opportunity than the game we're playing this weekend.
Yeah, how do you want to see the defense step up this next week?
Yeah, play how we know we need to play. Play how, we expect to play how, the standards we set for ourselves in the beginning of the season. Stop the run, and force this team to beat us with the pass.
There's been a lot of talk this week about paying attention to the details at practice, focusing on that. For you in this defense, what does that kind of look like throughout the week?
Yeah, just, being 100% locked in, the entire time, taking everything, exactly what we got from meetings, take it to walkthroughs, take it to practice, take it to the meetings after practice, and just really honing in on those, the little small details, all the little things that they do, maybe once last year, and so to be able to, carry this over to Sunday.
What kind of challenges does Justin Fields present for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback. I think the games, that they play really well in, he runs the ball really well. And so we got to be able to take that away. And, that obviously starts up front and then the backers. And, yeah, to stop that run, whether it's the backs or him.
Yeah, it being week 4, how much would it mean for this team to be able to get the win on Sunday?
Yeah, we have to win Sunday. There's no if or, we have to win Sunday if we want to, get to where we want to get to this year. We have to win.
Well, Alex, appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Phil, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much, Sydney. One of the big topics of conversation this week has been setting the edge. That's going to be big this week going up against Justin Fields.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. And that's one of the things that when I watch football games, I like to see which guys on run plays are running too far up the field because that's just exactly what the offensive line wants. You love it when offensive linemen
get upfield, go ahead.
They go upfield. Yeah, just push them on up the field. And then on pass plays, then they're sitting there at the line of scrimmage playing games. That's the time you need to get up the field. It seems like sometimes edge guys have it mixed up a little bit, but I'm hoping that we can set that edge on the run, be stout in that run, because we know Justin Fields is going to run the ball. They're going to try to get that run game going, especially seeing what happened to us last week in the run game. So they're definitely going to test us in that area.
And the big thing is, what is your responsibility? When you go against a mobile quarterback, you cannot trust your eyes defensively. You have to know the call, know your responsibility. If they're faking the dive and the quarterback's looking at you and you've got the quarterback, stay on that man. Don't peel off, because that's how you give up the edge. The Bears are going to try and get the Broncos defense to be fooled with their eyes and lose their technique. But if they just stay in the technique and trust the coaches, they'll be able to set that edge.
Yeah, Justin Fields rushed for more than 1,100 yards last year, so he's clearly capable of it. And that's been a big thing. Just setting that edge. Don't let him get out in open space. All right, time for our final break of the show. When we return, Mike McGlinchey has a powerful message in the locker room. And Russell Wilson, is he a fantasy lock for this week? That's next on Broncos Weekend.
To come in here and act like the sky's falling and the season's over after 3 weeks is absolutely insane. And we have a lot of work to do. We have a really good chance to improve this week and a chance to right the ship. And I think, all you got to do is, one's a streak. And as soon as you get one, things start falling into place. Guys start believing a little bit more. And the process just continues on.
Mike McGlinchey knows what it takes to win, and so does Russell Wilson. The Broncos quarterback has quietly had a solid start to the season, passing for 6 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions. Let's once again hear from Sydney Jones with our Fantasy Focus.
Thanks, Phil, for this week's Fantasy Focus. Let's take a look at quarterback Russell Wilson. Russell is ranked the 8th best fantasy quarterback as he's put up some good numbers throughout the first 3 weeks. He's totaled over 55 fantasy points so far this year in PPR leagues, and throughout the first 3 weeks of the season, Russell Wilson has completed 65.4% of his pass attempts and has thrown for 791 yards and 6 touchdowns, giving him an average of 18.4 fantasy points per week. Not to mention that Russell has had over 300 passing yards in the past 2 games and ran for 56 yards just 2 weeks ago. According to ESPN, Russell Wilson is projected to record 18.5 fantasy points this week in Chicago. I think there's room for Russell to certainly exceed that, given the fact that the Bears have allowed the 3rd most passing yards and are tied for the 3rd most passing touchdowns allowed in the league. So I think it's definitely worth starting Russell Wilson on your lineup this Sunday.
Thank you very much, Sydney. Guys, how has Russ looked to you? I mean, he's not been the problem for this Broncos team.
No, he's definitely not been the problem, and some people still blaming him for the woes that our offense has been having. But me personally, I don't think our offense has been having a ton of woes. I think the defense has been our issue thus far. And if we tighten up that defense, I think that will give our offense more opportunities to put more points on the board. But it hasn't been great offensively, but it hasn't been extremely poor either.
I think Russell Wilson's way better than he was last year. He's making reads the correct way, and people are missing the toughness. I mean, against Miami, he took some shots while delivering the football downfield. Steve and I know you don't just feel that in the game. You feel that until Wednesday of the next week. So Russell Wilson, with his presence, is showing the team how bad he wants to win, willing to risk his health to get the ball downfield. I've been impressed with Russell Wilson all year.
He's had back-to-back 300-yard-plus passing games for the first time since 2020. He's got the highest passer rating in the NFL when facing the blitz, and we've seen that deep ball. I mean, that's been a big part of the Broncos' offense.
The deep ball has been beautiful, and the other thing that a lot of people don't notice is he has that positive attitude that in times like this, it's necessary. You got to have it, and priceless, perfect word.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear some final thoughts. Ryan, let's start with you. What's it going to take to win this week?
Run the football and then get Marvin Mims the ball as much as possible. I don't care what kind of plays you got to design. He's winning right now on all of his routes. Get him the ball. Defensively, you got embarrassed last week. What are you going to do about it? Show up, make the tackle, and punish people for last week's game anytime they try and cross their line of scrimmage.
And I would say offensively, we had a few turnovers again last week, and we got to
clean that up.
Offensive line, you got to come out, you got to protect Russell Wilson, you got to block for that run, and we got to hold that ball. Defensively, we got to create some turnovers. We got to do a much, much better job of tackling and taking proper angles and knowing what we're looking at. A lot of the basics that we got to get back to this week, but if we do, I think we can come back with the win.
Something's got to give this week, guys. The Broncos have lost 6 straight road games, but on the other side, the Bears, they've lost 8 home games in a row.
There we go.
That's the longest losing streak at home.
Perfect recipe for a victory for the Broncos.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, 8 home games. That's the longest streak in franchise history for Chicago. So something's got to give this week. That's going to do it for us. For Troy Rank and Sidney Jones, I am Phil Milani alongside the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater, the Super Bowl 50 champ Ryan Harris. Thank you so much for watching Broncos Weekend.